Most people see a pine tree as something simple and familiar. It stands quietly in forests, lines roadsides, or appears in living rooms every December, covered in lights and decorations. Because it is so common, few people ever stop to ask what a pine tree truly represents beyond its shape and scent. Yet hidden beneath that familiar image is a story that almost no one knows. A story of enormous value, careful harvesting, and industries that depend on what flows from the pine's rugged trunk. Behind the rough bark of a pine tree lies a resource that generates more than $1 billion every year. This value does not come from cutting the tree down or turning it into timber. Instead, it comes from a thick, golden substance known as pine resin. Over many years of growth, pine trees slowly produce this resin deep within their trunks. It builds up layer by layer as part of the tree's natural system of protection. When the resin is finally released, it becomes the starting point for hundreds of modern materials used in everyday life, from industrial additives to engineering products that help machines function smoothly and safely. At the same time, pine trees also offer something far rarer and more surprising. Hidden inside their cones are pine nuts, seeds packed with oil and nutrients. These nuts contain an unusually high level of natural fats, giving them a value that can rival some of the most expensive foods in the world. While many people are familiar with almonds, walnuts, or cashews, very few realize that pine nuts often surpass them in both nutritional richness and market price. Together, pine resin and pine nuts turn the pine tree into one of the most valuable natural resources quietly growing across forests and plantations. Although the pine family includes more than 120 different species, only a small number are used in large-scale production. These species are divided into three main groups based on how they are harvested and what they are used for. Each group follows a completely different path, serving different industries and needs. The first group includes resin-producing pines. These trees are not cut down when harvested. Instead, they are carefully tapped so that resin can flow out while the tree remains alive and continues to grow. This resin becomes the foundation for many industrial materials once it is collected and processed. Because the trees can be tapped year after year, resin pines represent a renewable resource when managed correctly. The second group consists of nut-producing pines. These trees are valued for the cones they produce, which contain pine nuts rich in oil. Harvesting these nuts requires patience, timing, and skill. Whether gathered by hand in natural forests or collected using machines in plantations, the goal is always the same: to protect the delicate kernels inside and preserve their quality. The high oil content of pine nuts makes them especially valuable, placing them in a category far above most common nuts. The third group includes Christmas pines. These trees are grown mainly for their appearance rather than industrial use. They are shaped, pruned, and cared for over many years to achieve a balanced and full form. Once harvested, they are sold during the holiday season and rarely enter modern industrial supply chains. Even though they are the most visible type of pine to the public, they represent only a small part of the pine industry as a whole. Among these groups, resin-producing pines play a unique role because they supply materials that reach deep into modern life. The process of collecting resin begins far from factories and cities, deep in pine forests where trees have been growing for decades. Workers carefully select mature trees and prepare their trunks for tapping. This is not a rough or careless process. Each cut is made with precision, reaching just deep enough to trigger the tree's natural defense response without damaging its core strength. When the bark is opened, the pine tree reacts by pushing resin toward the surface. This resin is thick and milky at first, slowly flowing downward along the trunk under its own weight. It is collected in containers placed close to the tree, where the flow can be observed and controlled. Over time, as the resin continues to emerge, it becomes clearer and more stable, ready to be gathered and sent for further processing. What makes this process remarkable is that the tree is not harmed in the long term. The resin is collected in small amounts, and the tapping area is refreshed regularly to keep the flow steady without exhausting the tree. In this way, a single pine can produce resin for many years, sometimes even decades. When this careful method is repeated across millions of trees, the result is a steady supply of raw material that fuels an entire global industry, all while the forest itself remains standing and alive. And while this golden resin begins its journey toward factories and industrial use, the pine tree continues its quiet work in the forest, growing, producing cones, and storing even more value within its branches. Value that will be uncovered as the journey continues. Once the resin leaves the forest, its journey is only beginning. What looks like a simple, sticky substance becomes something far more important as soon as it enters the industrial world. After collection, the resin is transported to processing facilities where speed and timing matter greatly. If left too long, exposure to air can change its quality, so every step is carefully planned. Inside these facilities, large batches of raw resin are heated until they soften and flow evenly. This controlled heating transforms the resin from a thick mass into a workable liquid that can move through pipes and tanks without losing its natural properties. The liquid resin is then directed into tall distillation towers. As the temperature rises, different parts of the resin separate based on how easily they vaporize. The lighter fraction turns into vapor first and is later cooled back into a liquid form. This product becomes pine oil, also known as turpentine, which is widely used in manufacturing and chemical processes. What remains behind is a heavier material rich in resin acids. This substance is the base of gum rosin, a material that plays a key role in modern engineering and industry. Once separated, the molten rosin is carefully cooled. It is spread into thin layers and allowed to harden slowly, a process that helps preserve its strength and color. When fully solid, the rosin is cut into heavy blocks and graded based on clarity and physical properties. Lighter, clearer grades are sent to make packaging adhesives, printing inks, and coatings. Darker grades are used in rubber production and heavy industrial materials. From a quiet forest tree, resin has now become part of machines, packaging, and products used every day by millions of people. While resin fuels modern industry, pine trees also hold a deep connection to nature's most powerful forces. One of the most surprising features of many pine species is their relationship with fire. Instead of being destroyed by wildfires, some pines rely on fire to survive as a species. Their cones are sealed tightly with resin and will not open under normal conditions. Only intense heat causes them to snap open, releasing seeds onto the forest floor. After a fire, the ground is covered in mineral-rich ash, creating the perfect environment for new seedlings to grow. This natural process explains why forestry authorities in places like the United States and Canada use controlled burns. These planned fires reduce the risk of massive wildfires while also triggering natural regeneration in pine forests. Fire, which seems destructive, becomes a tool for renewal in the life cycle of pine trees. Time is another force that pine trees have learned to withstand. Some species grow slowly in harsh conditions where few other plants can survive. In California's White Mountains, bristlecone pines cling to rocky slopes with little soil or water. One of these trees, known as the Methuselah pine, has lived for more than 4,800 years. It took root long before ancient civilizations rose and still stands today, shaped by wind, cold, and time. These trees show how pine species are built not just to grow, but to endure. While some pines survive for thousands of years, others are grown for a much shorter purpose. Every Christmas season, tens of millions of pine trees appear in homes, shopping centers, and public spaces around the world. These trees do not come from wild forests. They are grown on carefully managed farms, where every stage of growth is planned years in advance. Only trees that have grown for 7 to 15 years and reached the right height, fullness, and balance are chosen for harvest. During their growth, they are regularly pruned to shape their branches and ensure a straight trunk. This careful trimming helps create the full, symmetrical look people expect in a Christmas tree. By the time harvest season arrives, each tree has already been shaped many times by human hands. When the trees are ready, workers cut them close to the base using handsaws or chainsaws. The process must be done carefully, since broken branches or damaged needles can lower the tree's value. Once cut, the trees are gathered and moved out of the fields. On small farms, this may be done by hand or with small trailers. On large farms or rough terrain, helicopters lift bundled trees from the fields to collection areas, saving time and protecting the land below. At processing sites, the trees are fed through net wrapping machines. The netting pulls the branches tightly inward, protecting the tree's shape during transport and reducing needle loss. After wrapping, the trees are placed into cartons and prepared for shipping. From there, they begin their journey to markets and homes, where they will stand for a few weeks as symbols of the holiday season, unaware of the long years of care and planning that brought them there. Yet beyond holiday traditions, across vast pine plantations in the southeastern United States, another harvest continues quietly year after year. For 8 months each year, resin harvesting follows a steady rhythm that has changed little over centuries. Workers return to the same trees again and again, refreshing small cuts and guiding the slow flow of resin. Each tree produces only a few kilograms per year, but across millions of trees, this careful work turns pine resin into one of the most reliable, renewable resources drawn from forests today, setting the stage for the next chapter of the pine tree's remarkable journey.